Have you ever looked at a grocery bill, a fuel pump receipt, or, your bank account and just thought, who is actually deciding these prices? Seriously, every single day, your life is shaped by these massive economic forces that you can't even see. When you get a salary hike or when your home loan EMI suddenly shoots up, it's not random. Well, welcome to this explainer. Think of this as your ultimate playbook to really understanding the invisible forces of economics. So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1, the microscope, personal choices; 2, the satellite view, macroeconomics; 3, fiscal policy; 4, monetary policy; and finally, 5, the game of economic thought. We'll be zooming all the way out from your personal wallet to the massive mathematical games that govern global resources. Let's dive right in.
All right, Section 1, the microscope, personal choices.
Okay, I want you to consider Adam Smith's famous paradox for a second. Literally nothing is more essential for human survival than water, right? Yet it's incredibly cheap. Diamonds, on the other hand, are practically useless for keeping you alive, yet they're wildly expensive. Why? Well, this brilliantly illustrates that in economics, value isn't just about how much you need something. It's heavily, heavily dictated by scarcity and supply. Water is everywhere, but diamonds are rare, and that scarcity is exactly what drives the price up.
Because things are scarce, we are forced to make choices, and every single choice has a price. This brings us to opportunity cost. Simply put, it's the value of the next best alternative that you have to give up when you make a choice. Say you skip going to a concert with your friends so you can stay home and study. The cost of studying isn't just the hours you spent at your desk, it's the actual fun you missed out on at the concert. Every action has a trade-off. This is literally the foundational rule of all microeconomics. You simply cannot have it all.
Now, out in the real world, we have two opposing forces constantly interacting. The law of demand tells us that, naturally, as prices drop, you and I want to buy more of a product. But the law of supply dictates that as prices rise, producers want to supply more so they can maximize their profits. So what happens when these two opposing behaviors collide? They find an equilibrium. It's this kind of magic price point where buyers and sellers are both perfectly satisfied.
Moving on to Section 2, the satellite view, macroeconomics. Let's completely shift our perspective here and contrast the microscope with the satellite. Microeconomics focuses on you. It's your personal budget, the price of one specific smartphone, or the wages at a single local company. But macroeconomics, that shifts our focus entirely. It ignores the individual shop and looks at the huge overarching environment where all those personal choices are actually made. Pioneered by brilliant thinkers like Robert Solow, who built incredible models on economic growth, macroeconomics tracks massive aggregate systems. We're talking about the gross domestic product, the entire nation's total unemployment rate, and the overall rate of inflation. Section 3, fiscal policy, the government's wallet. So, who operates this national machine? The government manages its massive wallet based heavily on principles championed by the economist John Maynard Keynes. The big idea is intervening when the country needs it. First up is expansionary fiscal policy. Think of this as stepping on the accelerator. If the economy is slowing down and jobs are vanishing, the government might cut your taxes and pump money into the system through huge public spending, like building new highways. On the flip side, you have contractionary fiscal policy. This is hitting the brakes. If the economy is overheating and prices are spiraling out of control, the government pulls back. They raise taxes or cut spending to cool down consumer demand. Let's ground this in reality, looking at how India's union budget actually operates. In recent cycles, India has aggressively prioritized expansionary infrastructure spending. They are pouring capital expenditure into massive nationwide projects like the Gati Shakti Master Plan to encourage businesses to invest and, create jobs. But simultaneously, and this is heavily guided by modern experimental economics, like the landmark poverty alleviation work of Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, they balance that building boom with highly targeted welfare and rural subsidies. This ensures the most vulnerable populations stay insulated from global economic shocks. Which brings us to Section 4, monetary policy, the central bank's thermostat. So while the government handles the budget, there is a completely separate entity at play here. The central bank acts as the financial engineer, managing the actual money supply, primarily through interest rates. And they also have two modes. A dovish, or easy money policy, means they are actively lowering interest rates. Suddenly, business loans and credit cards become super cheap, encouraging everyone to borrow and spend. Conversely, a hawkish, or tight money policy, means they are raising interest rates to combat high inflation. Honestly, when the central bank adjusts these levers, it directly dictates whether your home loan EMI goes up or down next month. Let's anchor this with a hard number. 4%. In India, the Reserve Bank of India, the RBI, operates under a really strict, flexible inflation targeting framework. They are legally mandated to aim for a consumer price inflation rate of exactly 4%. That's their mathematical North Star when turning that economic thermostat up or down. And to put our current reality into perspective, the RBI's repo rate, which is basically the baseline rate at which it lends money to commercial banks, currently sits steady at 5.25%. By holding this rate right there, they're carefully trying to balance local economic growth with the constant risks of global inflation, basically ensuring that prices stay stable without accidentally choking off business expansion.
Finally, Section 5, the game of economic thought.
We've looked at the levers of power, so let's quickly look at the brilliant masterminds who mathematically modeled this massive system over the centuries. Back in 1776, Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations, establishing the very foundations of the free market and the invisible hand. By 1798, Thomas Malthus offered a pretty stark warning, showing how population growth mathematically outstrips our food supply. But fast forward to the 20th century, and economics evolved into highly complex mathematics. In 1944, John von Neumann literally laid the foundation for game theory. And then in 1950, John Nash completely revolutionized the entire field with the Nash equilibrium.
So, what did John Nash actually prove? Well, he showed that economics isn't just about money. It is a highly strategic game. A Nash equilibrium happens when every single individual is maximizing their outcome based on the expected actions of everyone else. Once you reach this state, no single player can improve their situation by changing their strategy alone. It basically proves that we never make financial decisions in a vacuum. We are constantly anticipating the moves of others, from competing multinational businesses all the way down to everyday consumers like us.
And this brings us to the ultimate question. After seeing how personal trade-offs, government taxes, central bank interest rates, and game theory all weave together into one giant puzzle, I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Are you simply a player in a massive, mathematically predictable game of resource allocation? I mean, every time you buy a cup of coffee, accept a job offer, or save your money in the bank, you are literally making a strategic move on a global board. Keep exploring, keep questioning everything, and use the knowledge from this explainer to master your very next move in the economy.